Welcome back, guys. Today I'm in my greenhouse planting seeds. I think I'm on my 12th tray. It just is never ending. Planting seeds is so therapeutic. I was in a funk this morning and I said, I'm going down to the greenhouse. It's raining outside and it's warm in here and it just feels like spring. So my name is Sarah Stutzman and I'm so glad that you are here. So thank you for being here in this space with us. We just had a seed starting class 2 weeks ago, and it's something that we look forward to. We did our third annual, and we invite our community to come. We have trays, we have soil, everyone just brings their own seeds, and it just is magical. Like, when you get people together that are brand new to seed starting, or maybe this is their first year in. We had some folks that traveled 3 hours just to come plant seeds, and it's just a magical experience being belly to belly. And I'm so glad that you guys are here learning if you're not local. But if you are, I really encourage you to come out to our folk school classes and get to know people, because there's nothing like it, right? Every year the class gets bigger and bigger, and we host it in our barn, and there's kids and they're running around the farm, and there's husbands. It's like families that come, and it's beautiful. And then people end up swapping seeds or exchanging seeds. Oh, I see you have this one. Can I swap you this tomato seed for that tomato seed? And then there's questions being asked. So today I want to walk you through kind of what I teach at that class, and just start at those foundational principles of starting seeds and having them thrive. Because a lot of times I get questions, I started it, they popped up, and then they died. What happened? So I want you to be successful at starting seeds. And I'm gonna start some basil seeds today, but you can never have enough basil, right? This is like my second tray I'm on. What's your favorite seed to start if you are, a gardener? What are your questions? Leave them in the comments, and if need be, I'll do some more videos on this to help you be successful. I'm in my lower greenhouse, and I'm going to get some basil plants started. And I know there's this huge movement of folks that are wanting to learn how to plant seeds and starting out this year for the first time doing that. And so I want to bring you along on this journey and what it looks like to start seeds successfully, because there's a few principles that are essential in knowing, and they're super simple. One of them, number one, is start with warm soil. So this soil is warm, it's moist, it's been in here for a little while. We keep our soil outside we get a big block of soil, just regular old potting soil, and we keep it outside in a big container. And I'll bring a big bucket in here just to get warm when I want to start planting some seeds. We have these trays just from a local greenhouse. I know there's various methods to planting seeds. We just get these little 4-packs. Let me just put one out for you. Just like this, right? And sometimes we reuse them and sometimes we do not. There's another method called soil blocking. We choose not to do that. This just works for us. And so it's super simple and very inexpensive. So I'm just gonna fill my trays with moist, warm soil. Principle number one. Seeds need warmth and they need moisture to germinate. And what does germinate mean? It just means to sprout. All right, so I have just a few filled up. That way I can show you and bring you along on what that looks like. All right, next principle. Make sure you read the seed packet. I only started learning how to read seed packets. I didn't even know that there was information on the back. I'm a visual person, and I like to learn through video and pictures. And so I was like, oh, pretty picture on the front. I want to plant that. Let's do it. Soil, seed, how hard could it be? Well, there is a principle to this. Look at the back of your seed packet. It will tell you everything you need to know in this little grid right here. And number one is to know how deep to plant the seed, because if you plant it too deep, it's going to take a really long time for that seed to be able to reach the top of that soil and sprout. And if it takes too long, it could have less of a chance of sprouting. So this is a chamomile seed right here, seed packet, and seed depth says 1/2 inch. So you could get a ruler if you want to be super precise. You could get a ruler to be super precise if you wanted to, or you could just guesstimate. Okay, now remember, I filled these trays up to the top with soil. I'm gonna use, sometimes I'll use my finger to poke a hole in depending on how big the seed is. If it's a larger seed, then I will use my finger. If not, I'll just use a pencil tip or a marker tip, and I'll just poke some holes in. Now remember, you're going to want to put some fresh soil on top. The whole goal is soil contact, making sure that that seed has soil contact. So let's look at some other seeds. Cilantro, what's the depth here? 1/4 inch, so that's a little bit, it's a larger seed, which is crazy, right? Cilantro seeds are a lot larger than chamomile seeds, but the depth is a little bit less than planting the chamomile seed. And today I'm gonna plant some basil. And so basil is actually 1/4 inch planting depth. So I'm gonna keep that one out. But here's one that I want you also to look at the back of your seed packet, because there's more directions than just the planting depth. This is parsley. And parsley says to soak your seeds for 24 hours and then plant in a sunny location as soon as the soil can be worked. So you're gonna plant this outside. That's called direct sowing. You're gonna plant it right into the soil as soon as the soil can be worked and the temperatures are warm enough that you're not gonna have any risk of frost and losing your crop or losing your seed in the soil. Because remember, you need warmth and moisture. So not frozen soil and not cold temperatures. So this is a direct sow, though you probably could try planting it in some seed cells or some cell packs if you want to. The same for Italian parsley. It's the same thing, soak for 24 hours. So make sure you read the back of your seed packet. So principle number 2, read the back of your seed packet and check the depth. And also make note, you can also make note in your mind or in a journal, how far apart you want to plant these plants when they're ready to be planted in the garden. I think that's really hard for us. I know we're still learning that 14 years in, because these little tiny plants, and you think, oh, I'm just gonna plant them, it looks like you have them far enough apart, but they get monstrous in the summertime, and then they're too close together, and that leaves room for disease, especially blight, if they're too close together and airflow can't get in, and it's just gonna be a really crowded garden. We keep all of our seeds in, it's like a photo save box. I have a video on that where I shared how we store our seeds, but it's just something we picked up at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, Amazon. It's a photo storage box, and they have all these little tiny compartments that you could store photos in, but we gardeners, there's a lot of us that do this. We store our seeds in the little compartments and we label them, and I even label the whole box the year that we purchased them, because we have seeds from 2018, because we freeze our seeds, which allows us to get more usage out of them, and we get many more years out of their usage. So these are great. And then if you're in the garden and you're direct sowing some seeds on a summer night and you forget and you leave them out and a storm comes, this has happened to us multiple times, you won't lose your seeds because they'll all be safe in these plastic boxes. All right, let's get to planting some seeds, and let me show you what that looks like. Now, because I'm planting basil and it's a tiny little seed, I'm only gonna use a little pencil to just scratch the surface, because it's a 1/4 inch planting depth. So that is basil seed. Super tiny. And I usually put 2 in each hole just to make sure If one doesn't germinate, then I know I have another chance of that other seed germinating. And you can do what's called thinning, is pulling out the smaller of the two if they both pop up. That in there. And then I'm going to take some more soil, some dry, loose soil, and just put that on the top. And that's it, guys. That is how simple it is to plant a seed. And now what do you do in that waiting time? And you're gonna wanna make sure that you label your seeds as well, so they're not just popping up and you're like, what is that? What did I plant? Right? So that's super wise to do. And here's a little trick. Knives work really well, plastic knives, because I don't know about you guys, but at the end of like a party event, I'm always left with all these extra plastic knives, and I usually throw them away. Don't throw them away. You can use them as plant stakes. If you don't like that idea and you want to just use the traditional plant stakes, go to your greenhouse store or your seed store and you can just pick up some plant stakes. Whatever you use, and we reuse them too, so I'll just cross off whatever that is and reuse the back. Don't want to waste. So I'm going to put basil on here. Okay, I'm going to pop that right in there, and then I know it's labeled. So now what do you do in the waiting time, right? Well, you want to make sure that your principle number 3, make sure that your soil stays moist and warm. Put this tray in a warm location. It doesn't have to be in a sunny location yet. So it could be by a wood stove, it could be in maybe a spare bedroom, and you can turn the heat up a little bit higher in that room. Make sure you lightly mist them every day. Make sure this soil is moist, not drenched, but moist. And that's going to help germinate. So the moisture and the warmth is going to help germinate and open that seed and say, wake up, it's time, it's springtime, it's time to come alive. What I like to use is my kitchen sink, the sprayer on my kitchen sink. Don't turn it on full blast. Keep it lukewarm, not super cold, not super hot, lukewarm, halfway, because if you blast this soil, then there's a tendency that those seeds are going to go all over the place, or you might lose a chunk of soil. So lightly mist it. And I don't even I just planted these, so I'm not going to mist this at all today because I used moist soil. But tomorrow morning I'll wake up, check the soil conditions, and I'll lightly mist these, put them back in that warm location. And on the back of your seed packet, it'll tell you days to germination. So for basil, it takes 5 to 10 days to germinate, and they don't all come up at one time. You might have some that come up at 5 days, even though you planted them the same time. It's the craziest thing. Maybe you planted one just a little bit deeper than the other, and that might take 7 days, or it might take 10 days. So give it that full 10 or even maybe 14 days to see if those seeds germinated. If you have some empty cell packs, you can go back through and replant again. That is completely fine. Now, parsley takes, I think it's 10 to 20 days to germinate. That is probably the longest seed that I know of that takes that long to germinate. But most seeds are 5 to 10 days, sometimes 14 days to germinate. And what does that mean? That just means that seed opened up and it's reaching for the sky. It's coming out and it's popping up through the soil, and that's when you're going to start to see green. And sometimes those seeds are super, super tiny. They're the tiniest little sprouts that you might even need a magnifying glass to see. And sometimes they're a little bit larger, where you can, like a watermelon or a cantaloupe or a cucumber, those leaves are super large and it looks like you just want to pop them out of the soil. Don't help them along. They will come out just fine. So give them their space, give them their time. But once you see green, then you have the 4th principle. Okay, and I'll list all these down below too, but the 4th principle is make sure now you add on sunlight. So moisture, warmth, and now sunlight. Those seedlings are going to need lots of sunlight, so put your seed tray in a warm, sunny location, a windowsill or a table that faces that has ample sunlight. You can get a grow lamp. That would be optimal, and I picked some up on Amazon, which I said earlier, Amazon. But for us, I think I have 12 trays started right now. So that one seed starting station wasn't enough for us. And now that it's getting warmer out, it's so nice that we can come down here and put these seeds in a greenhouse. What if you don't have a greenhouse? What if you don't have, a seed starting station? That's okay. If you don't have the money to invest in that right now, there's some other things that you can do. Here's my one tip, and maybe I'll make another video on various greenhouse styles. But the one really, really simple thing that you can do is if you have a clear Rubbermaid tote, or you can pick one up really inexpensively, a large Rubbermaid tote, flip it upside down so that the clear part, that big part, is on the top, and you have your lid on the bottom. You can put your tray on that lid outside in a warm, sunny location. If it's warm outside, when it's cold, bring it in at night, and leave it outside. Put that lid on it, and you have a makeshift greenhouse. If it gets too warm inside during the day, if the sun is beating down on it, because it heats up very quickly, you can just prop it up, maybe with some bricks, prop it up and let airflow come in and out of there. So principle number 4, once you see those seedlings, you need moisture, you still need warmth, but now you need some sunlight. Okay, let's keep moving on. What do you do next? Because you're planting these seeds 8 weeks before you can get them in the ground. And you know what? Some people ask me, well, is it too late? Is it too late to start seeds if it's soon time to just start planting in the garden? It's never too late. We are constantly planting something, whether in cell packs here like this, preparing for the next our fall garden, or if we were planting directly in the soil. It is go time from early March all the way until, for us, like August 1st is when we are just constantly planting. We're doing what's called succession planting. And if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, you can pop them in the questions or comments down below. But we'll do succession planting, where we're planting something like every day, one thing, or every week, just something little in the garden, so that we're constantly have a crop of something coming. So what do you do after those seeds have popped up? Let me show you what that looks like. So here I have a 4-pack of red bell peppers, 4 of them that are coming up. Do you see that tiny little one right there? It's so tempting just to help it out, but it is making its way. And so these guys are down here. They are in the light. They're getting their sunshine, their warmth, and they are very moist. In the back I have some fennel popping up, right? So these, the fennel germinated maybe just a day or 2 before the bell peppers, so they're looking a little taller. But what do we do now? How do we care for these little babies to keep them alive? So like I said, the soil that we use is a base soil. It's just your everyday potting mix. We get it in a very large condensed block that we put in a big tub, and the kids get in with their bare feet and they mash it around. I think of I Love Lucy when they were mashing grapes, but our kids are mashing dirt and they love it. And then it just expands because it's a compacted soil. We don't mess around with little bags just because we use so much of it. But that's a base soil, so all your potting soil is really just a base. And so once you see those seedlings pop up, in about a week, let them get, let them start to shoot up to the sky and start to get big. And then what you can do, so after, like, let's say week 2, this is principle number 5, I think. And I do believe this is the last principle. You need to give those seedlings some nourishment, because there's nothing in that soil that's giving them nourishment. It is just what I would consider dead soil. It's kind of like us drinking distilled water. There's nothing in it. And so we need to add in those minerals. We need to add in all those, essential trace minerals that the plants need. And so what you can do is you can go to the farm store or your seed store or ag store and get a fertilizer, just an all-purpose garden vegetable fertilizer. And it'll have some ratios on it. A lot of times it's nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, and those are the nutrients that you're going to give your plants. The other thing that you could do that is completely free is poop. Yes, poop. Animal poop. So horse manure is amazing. Animal, rabbit pellets. Those 2 we use quite often in our garden, like right on our garden. You want to make sure that it's dry. So I know friends that go and they will visit all the Amish places and they'll just scoop up poop right there where the horse and buggy is hitched to the post, and they'll scoop it up. They'll take their bucket and scoop it up. You just want to make sure, but with doing that, you don't know if that animal is just grass fed, because if you're feeding your animals grain, or if you're sourcing manure from animals that have been grain fed, or let's say cow manure from animals that have had hormones or antibiotics, you don't want that on your plants, okay? And any residual, soy or anything that was maybe in that grain, you don't want that on your plants either. So all of our animals are grass fed, and their grain is soy free, GMO free. But our horse is completely grass fed, pasture fed, hay, all the stuff. So it's very, very easy to work with because horse manure breaks apart. So what you could do is, I have some here, and I have actually mixed it with some wood ash, so some of our wood from our wood stove. You can put this right on the soil. This is dried, and it's easily just falls apart when you work it. That's why I like horse manure, because cow manure has a completely different texture. Even though we feed our animals the same thing, has a completely different texture. And so horse manure breaks apart a little bit easier. And rabbit manure is just little tiny pellets, and so it easily just decomposes. The other thing you could do, you can mix it in with your soil before you plant your seeds. So that's one option. Second option is to make a tea with this. Just like if you were to use a fertilizer from the store, you mix it with your water, and then you water your plants. You could do the same thing, make a tea. Put some of this in with your water, and then dip your watering can into your bucket, or pour it into your watering can, and then fertilize your plants that way. And you can do that once a week. If you notice that they're getting yellow or they're getting spindly, that kind of is a sign that, okay, I need to add some fertilizer to this. And you'll notice that they will green up, they will bulk up, and they will look beautiful pretty much within like an hour. You'll be able to notice that. Anyway, we do. If not an hour, maybe overnight, you'll notice a complete difference in your plants and the health of your plants. Okay, so let me show you what these mature pepper plants look like. These are probably like teenage pepper plants. So these are sheep nose pimento peppers. These are about 4 weeks old, right? So they have just another 4 weeks before we can start, I would say 3 weeks, until we can start hardening them off, which is a term I'm going to talk about in a second. But these guys here, this pepper is a red bell pepper, and what we have done is we took each one of these peppers from the 4-pack cell pack, transplanted it into a larger pot to give it some more room for those roots to grow and for it to shoot up and get a little bit bigger before we put it in the garden. Here's a red cherry tomato. That one's about 6 weeks old. Again, we planted it in a larger pot just to give it some more space. So you'll want to transplant them into larger pots. Not necessary. It's not necessary. You don't have to do that. That's just something we do if we notice that they're getting spindly and tall and they need some more room. So that's just something that we do. But what we are doing now is we're hardening them off. So once they get to about 7 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks, we do what's called hardening them off. Instead of just taking them from their cozy little space in your house or in that little makeshift, greenhouse that you make, or cold frame. Technically it's a cold frame if it's not heated. So this space that we have here is technically a cold frame. So is our greenhouse up top. High tunnel. There's so many different terminologies. I just like to call it a greenhouse because it's nice and warm and cozy. So instead of taking them from like this, warm, cozy space where it's still sunny, but it's not direct sunlight, and just putting them out in the garden, you don't want to shock them. So you do what's called hardening off. And we have a bunch of trays just sitting out today. It is cooler, it's overcast, so we're getting them acclimated to the temperatures, to the outside climates. You do that for about an hour, and you work your way up, and then you can let them out for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then you slowly do that transition to get them ready to go into the soil. So join us back here in a couple, video series. I know I'm gonna bop around here a little bit, but it's just It is just high production time on the farm, and there's so much going on, and our soil for our garden isn't quite ready to be worked. It's been really wet, but I do want to show you what it looks like to transplant these little seedlings into the ground, and what it looks like to work your soil, what tools you need. We do a no-dig method, and so we have specific tools that we use to get that soil ready. Okay, so these, you're probably going to ask, where do you get these cute little pots at? I get these at from Bootstrap Farmer. We start our seeds in these little cell packs. Like I said, they're not super durable. We try to reuse them as much as we can, but a lot of times they do end up breaking. So when we do transplant, we always like to go with something a little bit more durable. And you can absolutely start right in these pots as well. I'll leave the link to that below. Bootstrap Farmer, I'll leave the link so you can check them out. They have so many amazing garden supplies, even greenhouses. Bless you. So we want to show you what that looks like. So join us back, keep watching, keep learning. We love that you guys are here, and we're so blessed to have you. So we hope that you are just that you are blessed and enjoying this journey that you're on, and don't overthink things. Just dive in and do it and have fun. Purely have fun and enjoy the journey. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.